Hi, I'm Ashley Swartz, CEO and founder of Furious Minds. Check us out at furious-minds.com. So I'm going to start with a timeless suggestion today, and that is that size does matter. In the context of our conversation, we're talking about pipes. Despite skepticism that Google can do what it says it has set out to, which is deliver 20 million households fiber services of 1 gigabit throughput by 2018. The fact that is going to cost them over $11 billion, and that doesn't even get the service to households, has a lot of people putting that potential in question. Their foray into the marketplace, coupled by their deep pockets, however, is creating a lot of air cover for pure play over-the-top IP television and content providers. And I think there's some fertile ground there that we need to sort of flesh out and talk through as an industry. Nielsen just finished a study a short time ago that they've called sort of Zero TV. They found that more than 5 million households in the U.S. Are actually watching TV without having cable, broadcast, or satellite TV services. And, you know, the ability, despite this sort of growing younger audience that doesn't want to pay for cable and doesn't have that appetite and is finding what they want without ever having a sort of cable set-top box in their living room, the reality is that IPTV business models are incredibly exposed when it comes to the challenges of the cost of broadband, right? We saw that a couple of years ago when Netflix started to gain traction, the MSOs retaliated sort of in two ways. One, they started to productize their broadband offering based on throughput. So video services were more expensive video quality services were more expensive if bought a la carte, or they countered it with triple play promotional pricing that was so competitive you almost couldn't say no, which meant your television was bundled with it, minimizing the need for a secondary set-top box or streaming services, right? So, you know, this has started to create momentum in the marketplace, but the biggest threat to IPTV still sort of exists, and that is the fact that, you know, these guys have the opportunity that you require that broadband connection to get streaming services, right? Most of these younger households that are actually creating a process of arbitrage or engaging in it are because they don't want to pay the price of television, and the others that are cutting the cord is because they're finding they're not getting the value with their $150, $200 cable bills. What's happening is that a lot of those triple play promotional programs from 2011, 2012 at 1 or 2 year contracts are starting to expire. And at the same time, Google Fiber is ramping up, and it's ramping up in places where we're starting to see a lot of noise, right? Dish is a great example of their recognition of this, right? They know the legacy sort of television MSO business is incredibly compromised and exposed, which is why they just put out a $25.5 billion offer for Sprint. Being able to deliver through wireless networks a broadband connection is a great hedge to them when their sort of core cable services or MSO services are on the decline or start to be more and more compromised and exposed. With Google Fiber landing in Kansas City, Austin, and soon to be Provo, AT&T, Verizon, and Time Warner, who are sort of in those markets, have begun to make a little bit of noise and retaliate, right? AT&T and Verizon is sort of beating its chest that they can deliver 1 gigabit throughput as well. They haven't yet commercialized it. TWC is offering competitive pricing now. They've dropped prices. They're offering free Wi-Fi, and they're sort of all, you know, coming out with a lot of different opportunities. The question is, are households ready for 1 gigabit throughput, and are they, at the end of the day, willing to pay the price for it? Time Warner Cable has this really interesting sort of self-promoting blog called TWC Cable Untangled, and they had a blog post on April 11th that was really interesting that basically talked about why they've had competition for, you know, decades, and they can handle this, and it's just another player in the market, and they're adaptive and they're fluid in what they've brought to market over time. And despite sort of the self-love that really was the essence of the blog post, the last paragraph was really interesting, right? So ultimately, competition is good for us, they say. It's going to make us evolve, change, grow in ways that keep us at the cutting edge. And really the biggest winner out of all of this will be the consumer. More choice and more options are better for everyone. Well, the reality is it's because we all have to play catch up with the consumer because they're changing faster than we can keep up. You know, what is interesting, though, is that market entry into Kansas City for Google Fiber, we saw that in Q4 of 2012, when Google started deploying its services, that according to Akamai, that broadband speeds and service increased by 84% year over year. That meant that all the other sort of legacy players in the marketplace with an existing footprint were now reacting to Google's presence in the market by delivering a better service and raising the standard. The question is, why did they do it before? And why does all this matter, right? It matters because at the end of the day, television is as much about the content business as it is about infrastructure, right? And the economies of cable today, as we know it, and the sort of fixed costs of a copper infrastructure of having deployed that have resulted in incredible efficiencies and economies over the last decade, right? They pay the cost of infrastructure deployment. It's been deployed. Now every incremental subscriber is sort of jelly that just drops right to the bottom line. That's changing. We saw the same thing occur sort of at 2001, 2002 in telco when the networks started to migrate migrate from sort of 2.5 to 3G or voice to data center devices. And the telco providers were sort of scrambling because they didn't know whether they wanted to be infrastructure providers or they wanted to be content providers. They tried content and they failed. It died on the vine, and they realized that offering a better service at a competitive price and innovating was the way to go. At the end of the day, I think that, you know, what is most interesting about this is that all the new services that are out there, like Intel, Google TV, Amazon's new set-top box, the fact that the broadband guys are threatened by Google are going to result in the broadband prices remaining competitive and allowing the assurance that these guys can introduce and double down on investments to make television better and know they have the air cover of affordable broadband that could deliver and stream the content and services. We're shifting from a TV everywhere to a video everywhere sort of marketplace and ecosystem, right? And at the end of the day, I'm incredibly excited because all this is a shifting of the power back to the consumers. By virtue of broadband remaining affordable, they're going to get what they want when they want it because they have the pipe into their house to actually deliver it. If you have any questions, give me a shout. Thanks. Have a great day.